This is an iHeart podcast.
We're going to fight crime. That's a good thing. Already they're saying, he's a dictator. The place is going to hell, and we've got to stop it. So instead of saying he's a dictator, they should say, we're going to join him and make Washington safe. But they say, he's the dictator. And then they end up getting mugged.
You're listening to the 47 Morning Update with Ben Ferguson.
Good Thursday morning. So nice to have you with us on the 47 Morning Update. And we've got two very big stories for you this morning. First up, not one, not two, but now 3 states have signed a new agreement with ICE for expanded immigration enforcement operations. This starting with West Virginia's governor announcing this wide-ranging ICE agreement, enlisting police, corrections, and the National Guard. And what's interesting about all this is the president and the White House are being very quiet about it. I'm going to explain why. Also, while Congress is on its traditional August recess, it doesn't mean that important work is not being done in D.C. In fact, the House Oversight Committee is still investigating the alleged cover-up of former President Joe Biden's massive cognitive decline and trying to find the answer to the question, who was actually running the country, and what was their name, and did anyone ever vote for them? Well, that is exactly what's happening in D.C. right now, and I'm going to give you the latest on the investigation. But first, let me tell you about Crockett Coffee. If you drink coffee like I do, I drink it every day, I want a great cup of coffee. Well, my good friends Clay Travis and Buck Sexton decided to start a company that only did small batch premium coffee. Small batch roasted coffee is just another level of incredible, amazing, smooth coffee that if you've never tried it before, you've got to do it because every cup is premium. It's not average. It's not even good. It's amazing coffee. Crockett Coffee, they do this in small batches. And there's no need to give your money to the woke liberal coffee brands that are out there because, my good friends, that's part of the reason why they started this company. They are sick and tired of giving their money to companies that hate our values. And they said, hey, we can do this and do it better than anybody else. Now, at Crockett Coffee, you can choose between fresh ground or whole bean or K-Cups. You choose. And if you're interested in mushroom coffee and the positive benefits that come with enjoying that each day, Crockett Coffee is now producing that as well. They've got dark roast, mild roast, a light roast, even a decaf version, and a mushroom organic blend. You choose what you like, and I'm going to save you money to try Crockett Coffee right now. You can go online to crockettcoffee.com. Use my name, Ben. You're going to get 20% off your first order, and then you're going to be hooked. That's crockettcoffee.com. Use my name, Ben, as your promo code, 20% off. Something else I love about Crockett Coffee is not just the amazing coffee you get, but a portion of your purchase will go to support Tunnel to Towers Foundation because the good people at Crockett Coffee also pledge to never forget. So go to crockettcoffee.com. Use my name, Ben, get 20% off your first order, and get the best cup of coffee you've ever had each and every day. It's the 47 Morning Update, and it starts right now.
Story number 1.
It is Democrats' biggest fear. Law and order returning state by state, and states now working with the Trump administration and ICE officials specifically. We now have 3 states that have signed a new agreement with ICE for, quote, expanded immigration enforcement operations. These 3 states include West Virginia, South Dakota, and Arkansas, all signing the agreements with the Department of Homeland Security's U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement to specifically, they say, ramp up immigration enforcement within their jurisdictions. West Virginia was the first one. The governor there, Patrick Morrisey, announced a robust collaboration under Section 287G of the Immigration and Nationality Act. This agreement enlists the West Virginia State Police, Corrections and Rehabilitation Division, and the National Guard to assist ICE in immigration enforcement. Translation, if you're an illegal immigrant, you don't want to be in West Virginia right now. Now, under this task force structure, officers can, quote, interrogate anyone suspected of being an undocumented immigrant. Number 2, process immigration violations for individuals already arrested for other offenses. 3, conduct warrantless arrests if an individual is seen and suspected to be a flight risk pending a warrant. 4, serve immigration warrants, administer oaths, collect fingerprints, and gather evidence. And 5, issue immigration detainers and hold individuals in correctional facilities before transferring them to ICE custody under federal supervision. You look at what has happened in South Dakota. The governor there, as part of his, quote, Operation Prairie Thunder, a public safety initiative, will now have the South Dakota Highway Patrol support ICE with arrests, announcing it today. The National Guard assists with the processing and administrative tasks as well. And the Department of Corrections will help transport detainees, identify undocumented individuals within state prisons, and parole them into ICE custody. You then move to Arkansas. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, former White House press secretary under Donald Trump, signing the Defense Against Criminal Illegals Act, which definitively increases penalties for undocumented immigrants convicted of violent crimes. Again, saying to illegal immigrants, you don't want to be in Arkansas. It also, with this new agreement, allows sheriffs to apply for the 287G authority to serve immigration warrants on those already in custody. And Sarah Huckabee Sanders announcing this enables the Arkansas State Police to stop individuals in public, inquire about immigration status, and potentially arrest suspected undocumented immigrants. Now, if you think they're doing this lighthearted, you're wrong. For example, in Arkansas, there is training required, a 40-hour online course covering scope, immigration law, civil rights, cross-cultural issues, as well as liability, doing this in a responsible way. Now, you may be asking, what is ICE 287G program? Well, let me explain to you the broader context of how this is being used by the Trump administration. The program enables state and local officers, after ICE provided training, to carry out certain immigration enforcement duties under ICE supervision. That is why there's a collaboration here and why they are having to sign on to the program. Now, as of August the 13th, ICE has executed 897 agreements across 40 states, including various models such as jail enforcement, warrant service, and task force operations. The Trump administration has significantly accelerated these partnerships, growing from around 135 to over 700 agreements in early 2025 alone. Of course, the left is going insane, warning that this surge is a risk to, quote, civil rights, community trust, and invites, they say, racial profiling, even though none of these programs have anything to do with that. Now, you also may be asking yourself, why am I not quoting the president right now when I'm telling you about this initiative? Well, the president clearly is playing chess on the issue. In fact, the White House has had no public statement or reaction regarding these specific agreements with West Virginia, South Dakota, and Arkansas, mainly because they want this to be clearly seen as state-led, that these governors are opting in. And that is exactly why the administration is being so successful in getting this done with so many different agreements, because they're not grandstanding, they're just trying to fight crime. And it's clearly working.
Now, story number 2.
It is the traditional August recess. It's happening right now in Washington, D.C. Congress is back in their districts, in theory, tending to business of listening to the constituents. That doesn't mean there isn't anything going on with the House auto pen probe. In fact, it's uncovering a lot about the Biden White House, even as Congress is on their traditional recess. The House Oversight Committee, I've been told today, is still investigating the alleged cover-up of former President Joe Biden's decline. The former president insisting he was responsible for, quote, all decisions that came out of the White House during his time in office. And former staff members claim they saw no obvious signs of a cognitive decline. Well, the House Oversight Committee Chairman, James Comer, discussing the committee's investigation to whether the Biden administration covered up the cognitive deterioration of the former president. Now, there's also been the question of precedent. What is the auto pen like in the past? And can you compare how other government officials use the auto pen in contrast to how it was being used when Joe Biden was in office? Clearly, that would help tremendously in the investigation. Well, former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich sat down with my good friend Mark Levin, and he was asked about the auto pen when he was a Speaker of the House, signing legislation, and how big of a deal it was to use the auto pen. How seriously was the auto pen taken? And how much was it also protected from abuse? I want you to hear what Newt Gingrich had to say to Levin.
Newt Gingrich, question. When you were Speaker of the House, I bet you took this signature requirement very seriously. I bet you took the requirement that a president actually be present when a bill is signed very, very seriously. I know there's a lot of formalities to the fact when certain bills are brought, they're brought in a special way, they're handed to somebody specifically. There's a whole process set up. Did you ever think you'd see the day where we're raising serious questions about a former president, whether he signed these bills or if he was present when the bills were signed?
Well, yeah, when you put it that way, sure. Look, these people are corrupt, irresponsible, and happy to exploit the nation for their own gain. So given those kind of people, who knows what they might do? I think it does raise, as you have brilliantly done in this show today, it raises a very big question about whether or not these laws are, in fact, laws. Remember, the Founding Fathers understood that you had to have a pretty strict series of rules or the whole system breaks down into a kind of corruption which undermines the rule of law. The rule of law requires rules, and one of those rules is that the president signs bills. Now, he can direct an auto pen for things that are, ceremonial, Christmas cards, for example. But the president ought to be signing these things. And when you learn that Biden was signing thousands of commutations in the last few days of his administration, he didn't have a clue what was going on. We have no idea what the deals were, why those people were given commutations, or if, in fact, they were legal. So I do think there's a profound question here, and probably the Congress and President Trump should really write some more restrictive rules about what it takes to get a bill to actually be a law.
It's interesting, Newt Gingrich, when I went back and looked at Madison's notes and looked at some of the other essays and comments on that, they spent a lot of time on this. They spent a lot of time on this signature issue. They remembered the statute of frauds from the 1600s. It was very important to them. And back then it was, this guy's the president. We didn't have this massive bureaucracy. He's going to sign these laws. We in Congress, we're going to spend our time doing all this and send it to him. We're concerned that somebody might hijack it, somebody might sign it. And there's also this presentment requirement that he needs to be present. I mean, let me ask you that. Is it really asking a president too much to sign the damn bills or to be present when the bills are signed? I mean, if he's having difficulty doing that, doesn't that kind of prove the point?
Well, look, I don't think any reasonable person thinks that after some point in 2023, Joe Biden clearly was incompetent as defined by the 25th Amendment, as you walked us through. I mean, when you read the amendment and you read the discussion around the amendment, it's very clear. Biden clearly was incompetent sometime, I can't tell you any given date, but sometime in 23, it should have been obvious to every person who was dealing with him that he was no longer competent to be president. And I agree with you. Every one of these cabinet officers and Vice President Harris failed their constitutional duty, and they should frankly be stuck with that these are people who willfully cheated the American people and allowed a phony presidency in which I'm guessing Dr. Jill was the most important. She became, in effect, the acting president of the United States.
You listen to the claim there by Newt Gingrich that he says Joe Biden effectively became the de facto president of the United States of America. She was not elected by anyone, which goes back to exactly why this investigation is happening and why the House Oversight Committee is still investigating the alleged cover-up of former President Joe Biden's decline, even while much of Congress is out of town.
Thank you for listening to the 47 Morning Update with Ben Ferguson. Please make sure you hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. And for more in-depth news, also subscribe to the Ben Ferguson Podcast, and we will see you back here tomorrow.
This is an iHeart podcast.